Hare Krishna, welcome to the Know Your Community series. Today we are very glad to welcome His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. We're going to ask three magic questions. How did you come to Hare Krishna? What's your most ecstatic or inspirational experience within the spiritual life? And third, the last is, what's your advice for us? Thank you, Prabhu, for joining us.
Hare Krishna. Delighted to be here, to be a part of Know Your Community series. So, the first question is, what attracted me to Krishna consciousness? I see it as a continuation of my journey through life, because since my childhood, I had a physical limitation. I had polio. So my mother had said that whatever he lacks physically, God will provide him intellectually. So I always identified with my intellectual side. And then as I grew up, I developed a lot of faith in the power of education to open doors. But I realized that education alone, at least in terms of material education, does not necessarily help people make good decisions. I myself was quite short-tempered, and I found that friends around me, very intelligent friends, were succumbing to self-destructive habits. I was a part of a social welfare organization where I primarily focused on the educational wing of that organization, where we would go to underprivileged areas, or in India we call as slums, and offer free tuition classes to the kids over there. There I saw the dark underbelly of poverty in India, where often the fathers were alcoholics and there was domestic violence at home. And I also realized something, that when those fathers, I would meet them, they seemed to be nice, normal people, and they would be very polite and grateful to me for coming there to teach their children. But the kids would tell me that once they get a bottle in their hands, his fathers would change into somebody different. So as a part of that organization, we decided to diversify into de-addiction, and we brought some anti-alcoholism speakers, and we also learned something. We gave some talks, and that small community that was there, they all decided we will stop drinking, and we considered that as a big victory. But then I went back to my hometown for the semester break. When I came back, I found that not only the fathers but even the kids had started drinking. And that was because there had been the intermediate election, and the local municipality candidate, in order to get people to vote for him, had wooed them by bringing truckloads of liquor. So that's when it struck me, that through education we can open doors in people's lives, but everybody has some trapdoors inside them in which they tend to fall down, and those trapdoors need to be closed. That's when my reading started becoming more psychological, philosophical, spiritual, in trying to understand what happens in our inner world. And when I came across the Bhagavad Gita 336, Athakena prayuktoyam papam charati purushaha, that was when it struck me. This is the question whose answer I am seeking right now. It took me some time to understand the Gita's answer, but then I started living the principles of the Gita, trying to remember Krishna and orient my life in a mood of service to Krishna. Then I found that my own anger fell away. One of my close friends was sliding towards alcoholism. His alcoholism just went off. He went cold turkey one day and he never drank again after that. So I realized there's some sublime power within this, and that's what I felt I should try to share. So since I already had an intellectual inclination and power in faith in the power of education to transform people, so then it became that I started studying the Bhagavad Gita, started sharing the Bhagavad Gita with others. Then I was working in a multinational software company. I had done well in GRE. I was supposed to come to America, but I was in two minds because I wanted to grow spiritually. So then I also started doing some study groups in India, in Pune, in some colleges, teaching students Bhagavad Gita informally in the hostels. And once I had a study group meeting in college, and that day my boss in my company told me that we have urgent project deadline, you have to stay here. I said, I'll come back tomorrow morning. I just need to go now. He said, no, you have to stay here. So I reluctantly stayed on. I tried to arrange some other speaker. No one was available. So then I decided that I had to stay on. I stayed on, but that night, midnight, when I was coming back, I started thinking that if I'm not writing the software programs, then there are 100 or even 1,000 other people who can do it as well, maybe more, maybe better than me. But how many people are sharing the wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita? And that's when I decided that this is how I can best contribute to society. So that's how my journey to Krishna consciousness was, primarily in terms of learning how to best use whatever abilities I have to try to share what I had learned was the most empowering knowledge in my life. What is the most ecstatic moment for me in Krishna consciousness? Because of my intellectual and analytical nature, it's more of a personal reflective moment among the various aspects of Krishna consciousness that inspire me. Words are what take my consciousness towards Krishna. So when I try to write or when I try to speak, for me words are what flowers are for a pujari worshipping the deity. So I will try to find the best flowers and put them in the best possible combination to try to decorate the Lord. So similarly, I try to find the best possible words and try to put them in the best possible combinations to try to share, try to both appreciate bhakti wisdom myself and present it to others. So whenever I can engage with words in that way, in a deep immersion where I can get some insight, get some new expression, that's when I feel very enlivened. And among such moments, for me, the Prabhupada song Markine Bhagavad Dharma is my favorite song, and I have contemplated on it many times. I have given a series of talks on how Prabhupada's devotional disposition is manifested in that song. And one time when I was in Vrindavan, Radha Damodar Mandir, and there it was a relatively uncrowded area. At that time it was in the early evening, not in Kartik. So there I was singing that song, and I was, it's almost like in front of Prabhupada over there in his room. I was trying to share my understanding, my realizations of that song. So I had my phone next to me. I was recording what I was speaking. I was trying to speak it. It's like a child when they learn their first words. The child speaks the first words for the pleasure of the parents, and the parents are pleased. So I was feeling that in front of Prabhupada, for Prabhupada's pleasure, I was trying to share what my understanding of that song was. And that was a time when I felt deeply connected with Prabhupada, with Krishna, with those words which were the link between Prabhupada and Krishna. It's almost like there is a cross current of love between Prabhupada and Krishna going on, and then I was in the middle of the cross current. Sometimes people get caught in a crossfire and they get wounded from both sides. But in this cross current of love, if we get caught, then we get mercy from both sides. So that was probably one of my most inspiring experiences in bhakti. And what is my advice for others? Guna karma vibhagasya. Krishna says that, we all have been given certain nature. And although we might say that this is nature, this is not our spiritual nature, that it is not by our, it is by our own past karma. But our past karma also works under Krishna's supervision. Maya adhyakshena prakriti. So whoever we are right now, it is by Krishna's arrangement. We have certain conditionings, we have certain gifts. That whole constellation of who we are at present is Krishna's gift to us. Sometimes we may focus too much on what we lack, whether it be in terms of abilities that we can use in Krishna's service. It can be resources, it could be money, it could be intelligence, it could even be time. But we are within Krishna's plan right now. So if you just focus on trying to understand, okay, talk about three things. Look inward, look outward, look upward. So first we look upward to know that where we are right now is within Krishna's plan. And then we look inward to try to see what is the gifts that we have. And then we look outward to see what are the areas in which we can make some difference in the world. What is the service that we can do? That is up to Krishna whether our service will be like Hanuman's, where we go victorious. Hanuman went victoriously into Lanka and burned Lanka and came back. Or whether our service is like Jatayu's, where we try something and we die trying and don't succeed. That is up to Krishna. But Jatayu and Hanuman both were dear to Krishna. So sometimes when we focus without looking upward or inward, when we focus only on looking outward, even in our service to Krishna, we can become very dissatisfied. Oh, my service is not getting results. I'm not able to do this service. People are not valuing what I'm doing. So we need to look upwards to know that where we are within Krishna's plan. Look inward to see that I have certain gifts. And then look outward to see what can I do with the gifts that I have. So it's Prabhupada was once asked that by one disciple, what can I do for you? Prabhupada said, find out what you like to do and then do it for Krishna. So that is the that is the guideline that every devotee can use in their spiritual life. If you are fortunate enough to have a spiritual master or some senior devotee to give us a specific guidance that we can work with, then that's great. But if we don't have, then we can find our way in Krishna's movement through these 3 steps of looking upward to know that we are within Krishna's plan, to look inward to know that we have some gifts given by Krishna, and then look outward to see how we can use those gifts in Krishna's service. So otherwise, there are many lost souls in the material world, and there can be many lost souls in the devotee community also, in the Krishna. If we focus only outward and feel that my service has no value. So if we can do this, Ma Manusmara Yudhyacha, Krishna says, that first remember me. Remember me means look upward and look inward. Look upward to know that Krishna, we are within Krishna's plan. Look inward to know that Krishna has given us some gifts. And then what is the Yudhyacha? What is the particular battle that we want to fight? That will be revealed gradually. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for sharing and thank you for joining us. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.